Hi, I'm Paul from Test Data Services, and this is the first in a series of blood, sweat, and testing videos. And today I'm going to talk about load testing versus stress testing, and I'm going to match that up with resilience or robustness versus anti-fragile. Now, I've just been reading lots about the anti-fragile concept from Nassim Taleb, and I've listened to quite a few of his videos. They are really great to listen to. And so often in the context of QA and testing of IT systems, we're told to aim for this idea of resilience. Now, that sounds fantastic, but really, resilience isn't, I don't think, what we should be aiming for. I think we should be aiming for anti-fragile, and I'm going to go into that in some detail. I'm going to also explain why I think that stress testing is really the way that we get to anti-fragile. It's interesting, in the second chapter of his book, he has a quote. It says, "The excess energy released from overreaction to setbacks is what innovates." So let's imagine that I'm engaged to run a test and we need to verify that you can do 100,000 of a certain business process per hour. Now, in some places when I've been engaged to do that, there's been a very strong pushback on me exceeding that 100,000 per hour. Even when I explain that that 100,000 per hour is not evenly spread over a whole hour, the peak minute may be much higher than the average minute. There's still reluctance, but maybe I'll be able to test at 150,000 per hour, even if only for a short period of time in that space of an hour. But the problem is that that is testing for what's expected and what's largely anticipated. But if I was to run a test at 300,000 per hour or 400,000 per hour, that is unreasonable from a traditional standpoint. And it may result in some overreaction by various stakeholders, team leaders, project managers, and that's understandable. I get that, and I'm sure many of you watching this video know exactly what I'm talking about. The funny thing is, though, that that overreaction does tend to lead to a focus on the system or component that caused the ultimate failure that was revealed in that stress test, resulting in a system, after those changes are implemented and the problems remediated, in a system that's much more capable. So in Nassim Taleb's book, he basically says that a system is anti-fragile if it is better off after being stressed. And that's clearly evidenced in many organic systems and many organizational systems, but it's not evidenced in a lot of physical systems. So physical systems that are not organic-like in nature. So, for example, he has this idea. It's almost like a continuum. I don't know if he specifies it like a continuum, but I think of it like a continuum of fragile on one side, robust or resilient in the middle, and anti-fragile on the other side, like the extreme. He basically says that fragile is destroyed by volatility, and resilient and robust survives volatility, but anti-fragile benefits and improves from volatility. When I say volatility, I also mean stress. And now when we run a load test, we aren't really stress testing. We're subjecting a system to a workload that's anticipated. Even if it's unlikely, it's still anticipated. It's within the realms of possibility. When we run a stress test, we're doing something that is never supposed to happen. But in the process of doing that, if we then implement changes and remediations and fixes and improvements, we've substantially improved the system. And we don't know what we don't know. And when we're live 6 months after go live and some weird thing happens that no one foresaw, if we'd run the stress test and we'd implemented some of those things to improve the system, we may well cope with that issue or that situation a whole lot better than we would otherwise have. And why, might you ask, should we do stress testing? Well, I do it on myself. So I can now do pull-ups. Now, pull-ups are fairly strenuous exercises, and when I first attempted them, I could not do them. I could barely hang from a bar, much less pull myself up. So I went through several iterative steps in being able to do one. I started off using very thick rubber bands that loop around the bar, go down to my feet, and then that would give me a boost, and that would help me up. Then I would transition to thinner rubber bands, and then eventually no rubber bands with incomplete movement and then complete movement. So when do I ever need to be able to do a pull-up? Never. I mean, the only time I've ever seen someone need to do a pull-up is in an action movie when they're jumping from one building to another and they barely make the jump and they cling on somehow with their fingers to a ledge and then somehow pull themselves up. I find that really difficult to imagine someone can do that. But if it's possible, fantastic. I don't think I'm ever going to find myself in that situation, and that's not why I do pull-ups. I do pull-ups because it benefits my whole body. The stress that I put myself under in doing a pull-up affects the way my body responds. It overreacts to that stress. It overreacts to that assault of doing those exercises. When I do them, I don't just do one and I'm happy. I do as many as I can do in sets maybe, but I still do as many as I can do over the course of the time that I'm doing them. Now, that is not aligned to reality, yet the over response of my body because of that stress makes me stronger. It helps my back, it helps my shoulders, it helps my metabolism, it helps my state of mind. It's a lot of good things. So when it comes to quality assurance testing teams running a load test versus running a stress test, if you want to move beyond just making it so your system will survive, and that's what I would call robust or resilient, to being anti-fragile, you should seriously think about dialing up your stress tests, making them a little bit over the top, because your whole system will be more anti-fragile for it and therefore better for it. Hope you enjoy this video and the whole series, the blood, sweat and testing series, where I'll talk about lots of topics and ways that we can make stuff better as we do our job. Have a great day. Bye.